So I finally got around to reading Noah's Notes, which is one of the new mangas that come out this week. It is part of the Jump Start, I think it's called, and I was really excited to read this manga when I first learned about it because it looked really interesting just by the cover and the visuals alone. And yeah, having read this chapter, I'm really hoping it doesn't get axed. That said, it's one of the series because it's a new one. It has the potential to go far, but it could also just flop really early on. It is extremely difficult to tell. So today I thought that I would share with you guys my first impressions of this series. There will probably be spoilers, so if you haven't read the chapter yourself, well, you might get spoiled a little bit. Maybe you don't mind that, then you can probably keep watching. If you do mind that, well, I'll try to get you a link, but it's a really dodgy link that was used because I had to read it through a 4chan post, which was annoying as hell, but at the same time, it's still the entire chapter, so you still get the full experience. But yeah, anyway, so let's talk Noah's Notes. Chapter 1. So the series is about a young schoolgirl called Mirai and this archaeologist called Noah. Quite simple. I mean, the series is called Noah's Notes. Probably should have seen it coming that the main character would be called Noah. But he's not your typical archaeologist by the looks of things. He really has this extreme personality in a way, because kind of early on we see him just burst through a window and then he holds a gun to a schoolgirl's head, putting the gun in her mouth. And let me talk about that, because the moment he put his gun inside this girl's mouth, I got really interesting vibes, because firstly, the first thing I really thought about was, wait a minute, he's putting a gun inside of a young girl's mouth. This is supposedly a shonen, right? It's supposed to be for a younger audience, but is that really what you should be showing a young teenager? Should you really be promoting guns inside of the mouth? Is that really what you should be gunning for? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I'm sure there have been worse things coming out in shonen. I'm not really saying this is like the top of the line, it's not something that should be banned or anything. The moment I saw that panel, I kind of questioned, okay, is he going to be at this level of extremist like all the way through the entire series? Because if so, I'm game. I fucking love this main character already. Seeing that panel, well, to be fair, that panel wasn't even the panel that sold me the most, but it's one of the panels that really made me love this guy. Now, the female lead is also kind of interesting because she is, let's put it simply, in a way that everyone can understand it. She's a gold digger, okay? That's what she is. But she's not she's kind of a romance type of gold digger, but at the same time, it's not really about the love when it comes to Noah. The thing is that obviously they're offering her 300 million yen as long as she, helps them out, and as long as she joins them in this excavation, basically. So, she's obviously game, she wants that 300 million. That's really the main reason she's joining on this expedition, apart from the fact that she was having a gun to her mouth, which might, of course, persuade her a little bit, but let's not talk about that. Now, the theme of this series is something that really made me hooked, okay? Like, you don't really find this out until very late in the chapter, of course. It's kind of at the climax of it. As a lot of other people have been pointing out, I think this series gives Dr. Stone vibes, like heavily Dr. Stone vibes. Not in the sense that, the setting of the series, because it's not really the sense that it's a post-apocalyptic event and then they have to rebuild society. That's not really what it is about. What it is about, however, is preventing the apocalypse from happening in the first place. They know it's gonna happen, but they don't know how to fix it. They don't know what causes it. They know what year it's gonna happen, and they know that it's essentially gonna loop around eventually. It seems that reality is stuck in some kind of time loop, whereas every 100,000 years it returns to where the apocalypse happened. So we have a situation, especially since they're only 4 years away from this next apocalyptic event from happening. So this series has to reach its climax in 4 years, essentially. That's when they have to save the world. And I found that to be really something, because I don't think I've ever seen this kind of theme in a manga before. Like, you have a lot of time-based series, like time travel, being sent to the past to fix a problem, but this is kind of different because you know what's gonna happen. but you're still in the present, but you still kind of have this window of knowing exactly how things are gonna turn out. You don't know how to fix the problem, you don't know what caused the problem in the first place, you just know it's going to happen. And Noah is an archaeologist, okay? And that's kind of the whole center of this series. Instead of science, it's to do with archaeology. Looking at Dr. Stone, for instance, you know, it's a very science-based series. You know, you get to learn a lot about science, all kinds of science like chemistry, physics, you know, yada 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 basically. But in this series you get to learn about history a lot. And Noah kind of points one thing out to this Mirai girl, that okay, you don't like history, but everything you do essentially revolves around history in one way or another. Like, okay, so you like this thing that your mother did, and that's based on her history, her personal history. History doesn't have to be something ancient. It simply has to do with something that happened in the past, basically. Be it 20 years ago or 200,000 years ago, it doesn't matter. It's still history. I really liked this side of Noah. Like, he really knows what he's talking about. He's a very intellectual main character. He's not like one of those fucking idiots, you know, like Natsu or Goku or Luffy. I mean, it's not really like Deku in a way, but I guess you could say he's a lot like Senku, except he is a lot more aggressive than Senku. Like, this character is aggressive in a way, not really physically aggressive, but more like he's right in your face kind of aggressive. Especially at that one point when he literally kicked down the girl down a pit, which, you know, she doesn't know what's at the bottom of it. He didn't quite know what was at the bottom of it. He just kind of assumed it was water at the bottom, and he was like, oh yeah, I was right. Imagine if there hadn't been any water down there. He would have been, well, shit, I guess I was wrong. So I guess you could kind of put him on the pedestal of being a very eccentric main character, but at the same time within reason. But he's not quite a lunatic. He's just a bit over the top, over your typical intellectual, forward-going main character. Anyway, I think that's kind of all I really have to say. You know, as far as the first chapter goes, I'm really hoping this series doesn't get axed, because it has so much potential of becoming like a second Dr. Stone. I'm not sure I would say it could ever surpass Dr. Stone, because Dr. Stone has a special place in my heart, but it could definitely be up there, you know. It could be kind of like on the same level, maybe a little bit below that, but of course it could like become better. I'm not saying it can't, I'm just saying I don't see that happening based on the first chapter. But I really do like where the plot seems to be going, like having this whole archaeology theme, and at the same time kind of having this future or time element to it, without actually making the use of time travel. Because one thing that I really don't like in manga is this whole being sent back into time to fix a problem, or time travel in general. It's not really something that I'm into personally, but you know, to each their own, I guess. Anyway, with that said, let me know what you think down below in the comments. Like, do you think this is gonna be a good thing, like a good manga, or do you think it's gonna flop like Golem Hearts, like Full Drive did? I mean, a lot of people probably think it will, because that's what happened to those series, and you know, I wouldn't blame you if you think that. I personally am a very optimistic person. I do think this could actually do really well, and I certainly hope so, but will it? We'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, with that said, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new to my channel. This has been Chaotic Plus, and remember everyone, Toga is waifu, Toga is lifu.